What is the saddest truth about smart people? I was a career nanny for 10 years. I worked for 2 families where the parents were doctors. 2 extremely successful anesthesiologists and a cancer research doctor. I saw their lives from the most intimate view due to working 50+ hours in their home with their children. The saddest thing is that a lot of them are so smart that they stand out as the oddball in all non-academic situations. This is abundantly clear when watching them try to make connections with other, more of average IQ parents. They're almost just too brainy and awkward. I have to assume this is a lifelong struggle. It just seems isolating at times, I guess is my point here. They're almost just too brainy and awkward. When you passionately work in a very specific niche of research, that work can take up your whole mind. You love work. You're brilliant at it. It's your big thing. Then you're at a party where everyone talks about the last soccer game, THST new Netflix series, and the latest trends in romance novels. And you realize you were so deeply focused on work that you never saw any of that. Why should you? Fitting in is important, sure, but don't waste your time just for that. There are always other topics that are mutual to everyone. Be it children, alcohol, other non-related hobbies, the weather, your trip to whatever you did last summer, etc. Also, people love to talk about themselves. If you can get the other person talking, active listening is really all you need with 95% of people. That's kind of the thing they are talking about. They are so engulfed in their work that 90% of anything they've done in the past month is related to their work. Many folks like that, especially doctors, need to take care of themselves and take some time to develop more well-rounded. Plus 60 hours is incredibly draining beyond just physically. Truly smart people can thrive if they have social skills. If they don't, you would never know they are smart. I think having excellent social skills and the ability to connect with others, empathize with others, and perform emotional labor is a type of intelligence that doesn't get enough credit. It's hard work. 100% agree. That's the type of intelligence that gets you ahead in life. Or it gets you into hospitality, where you get zero respect, used and abused till you have zero passion for your career because you were used like the other people who were just there to get paid and go home. Most smart people never find meaningful application for their intelligence in employment, generally underutilized. I was literally told this in my last performance review. We know you're really smart, but you have to sell it better. I had just pulled like a week of 12-hour workdays, and I was told to send out more mails. I hate my existence. Software engineer, my husband is this guy. If the managers would just stop having 4 meetings a day, he'd already have solved the majority of their most glaring architectural problems. But right now he doesn't even have 2 uninterrupted hours a day to focus on minor bug fixes, because he has to spend 4 hours a day explaining what he's working on, how it's going, and what his strategy is going to be, to aid managers who don't have the technical chops to understand what he's doing anyways, but they like to write down what he says so they can regurgitate it to their own bosses at some other meeting. The process, meetings, and checkboxing has become the point at this company, not actually producing a functional product that meets the customer's needs. The emotional and cognitive drain of this is soul crushing, and I wish he'd look for a different job. Being smart is a practice. You can have potential for intellectual aptitude, but your mind must be exercised. Too many smart people from high school/childhood get out into the real world, are met with challenge for the first time, sink into their comfort zone, and then never do a smart thing again. This is really true, especially when they are rewarded for their products and not their efforts. That is understandable and replicated in the adult world too, but it does make people surprised and at a loss when they encounter something they can't solve immediately or easily. Agreed. In high school, I was considered one of the smart ones, yet in college, I feel like the dumbest person in the room. I'm almost done with college, and I still have terrible study habits and procrastinate on all assignments because I'm still not used to dealing with the challenge and actually having to work to understand something. I barely studied in high school, did assignments right before class, and I still managed a 3.5 GPA. I wasn't doing the easiest classes either. It was a mix of standard, honors, and app. Definitely feeling the effects of my bad high school habits right now. I wish schools focus more on preparing you for college instead of making sure you pass some dumb state test. I feel like I was just told to memorize things, but never taught how to learn. Which sounds kind of weird, but actually knowing how to learn is an incredibly difficult thing to do. This reminded me of my class valedictorian, probably one of the smartest people I have ever met. Dropped out of college in his last year and didn't finish until his 30s. To paraphrase Socrates, smart people learn from everything and everyone. Average people from their experiences. Stupid people already have all the answers. Agreed, but what makes that saddest? Seems aspirational and inspiring to me. I mean, the smart portion, not the stupid portion. I think the sad point is that as a society we shun the hesitantly wise and gladly follow/elect the loud, bold, and stupid. Because most are average at best. The truly intelligent are an extreme minority. Humility is good if you are already successful, not for achieving success. That usually requires hubris, because other apes respond well to confidence. Now, it's all statistics. With hubris you may get tactical success, and might be lucky, and have that work for you. More often than not hubris will be your downfall. Lots of hugely successful people are humble. I'd say most that are successful by their own right do manage to avoid the hubris pitfall. Success is a team sport. Being nice to people and allowing them to push your agenda is the way to go. Not everyone can or should be Linus Torvalds. He's an exception to the rule. If they ever admit that they are intelligent, they are automatically viewed as an arrogant asshole. That's so true. That smart people usually overthink stuff more than rather just do it. Analysis paralysis. Thanks for this term, I will be using it. Happiness in intelligent people is the rarest thing I know. Forgot where this is from. It's Ernest Hemingway. Thanks. That the truly smartest people probably, not always, won't be recognized. The smartest person you've ever met probably wasn't actually the smartest person you ever met. They probably just conformed most to what you think being smart means. The guy everyone would pick as the smartest at my job is just really good at that job. Ask him real life problems and he's fucked. We all have our arena of expertise. Most people aren't just overall smart. Definitely. After all, any time which you spend developing skills in one thing, somebody else can spend outpacing you in something else. And even when focusing on one thing, you're constrained by the time available. Sad truth of life, I guess. That nobody listens to them. People these days are all about what they want to hear. That a high IQ will most probably get you a slightly better than average office job and the ability to solve the brain teaser in the local newspaper, and not much more. Being smart isn't really that beneficial compared to being social, likable and courageous. I've come to realize that the most important thing to succeed in life is audacity. I'm smart but extremely anxious. I'm anxious about applying for jobs, talking to people, even using an umbrella when it's raining makes me embarrassed. I fully believe that you don't have to be rich or smart. The only thing you really need in life is to be shameless, and you can do anything. That's why psychopaths often succeed in life. They don't feel shame, anxiousness or regret. They're able to lie their way through life and can make career moves that others are afraid to make. I know it's bad, but I kinda wish I could do the same. What helped to develop my audacity is understanding that your boss or any rich people I meet are just humans. They love food. They love talking about themselves. And they make mistakes too. I also love the saying ask and you shall receive. So I tell people what I want, as long as it's reasonable. Sometimes I get it. Sometimes not, but at least I tried. What helped to develop my audacity is understanding that your boss or any rich people I meet are just humans. I'm a pretty successful person, and this is one of the main philosophies that I credit to many of my successes. Never put anyone on a pedestal. My perspective is, if something is humanly possible, then I should be able to give it a reasonable shot. If I can't do it, then chances are most, if not all, others couldn't pull it off as well. So there's nothing to feel bad about. I don't believe that anyone has abilities significantly beyond what I'm capable of. If you approach something from the perspective of I can't do it as well as that genius can, then you've already set yourself up for failure. This self-defeating attitude is one of the main things I've seen hold back people who many would consider intelligent. Of course, you have to have a baseline level of ability to think this way. I'm not talking about me beating a 7 feet 0 tall person at basketball, but it's generally true for most things in life. If I can't do it, then chances are most, if not all, others couldn't pull it off as well. So there's nothing to feel bad about. Of course, you have to have a baseline level of ability to think this way. I'm not talking about me beating a 7 feet 0 tall person at basketball. So you accept a genetic disadvantage in height and expect yourself to perform worse. Set yourself up for failure in activities affected by such a disadvantage. But you refuse to believe other genetic disadvantages in intelligence, creativity, persistence, self-motivation, etc. could affect you the same. Is it because you cannot directly observe such qualities, or for that matter accurately measure them, or because you believe to be superior in those areas? A lot of them will never get any recognition. So many smart kids will never even know how smart they are, because they get no opportunity to learn and grow their skills. They just live and die in some slum, mine, or field. Very often smart people expect the world to make sense and figure they will be better at working the system, whichever system that may be. Unfortunately, the real world is very random, rarely makes any sense, and is run by people that rarely are very smart. I often find that the "smart" people around me tend to struggle the most when something doesn't make sense to them. They have their own intricate way of absorbing and applying knowledge at alarming rates, and because of it, they excel at their area of expertise more than the average Joe. But when their system hits a wall because of something unexpected, nonsensical, or completely random, they take it harder than most people would because it doesn't fit into their way of doing things. Kind of like how a tiny bug in a code can break the whole program. As someone who has been called "smart" their whole life, I question how true it is anymore. I've experienced this and would like to explain, at least from my POV. When you have a system or philosophical foundation for how things operate, and that system fails, it normally means one of two things. 1. You got unlucky. 2. You're wrong. The thing about #2 is it forces you to re-evaluate the system to find out where you went wrong. And if your system is flawed, then everything fails. So, I, at least, end up doing almost a complete re-evaluation of my philosophy to reconsider my beliefs. It might just be a cursory exercise sometimes, and I'll maintain everything anyway, but I always try and ask myself the question to see if maybe I'm wrong to a significant degree and should change. Pardon me for asking, but what is a "philosophical foundation"? Never heard a term like that being used before. Is it like a code of beliefs? It's what it sounds like, a belief system that you rely on to navigate the world. In my example, I'm an absolute believer that there is always a truly right and wrong way to do something. This includes how to learn/teach things. While the world is flooded with shades of grey that can be hard to navigate, I still ultimately believe there are black and white answers. They just change based on context, if that makes sense. Basically, you have a subsection of your overall worldview that you use to navigate things. Everybody does this, even if they don't think about it. When I have reason to believe I'm wrong, or sometimes even if the question is raised, usually by myself, I re-examine what I believe to decide if it's still accurate. One of the first signs of the beginning of understanding is the wish to die. Quote from Franz Kafka. One day Gregor Samson awoke to discover he had been turned into a giant cockroach. And that's the happiest moment of this story. That folks of average or lower intelligence wrongly tend to assume they can never be smart people, or else that they never really need to be, so they don't seriously try. And then there are people who are so dumb they don't even get how dumb they are, and think they're smart. They seriously can never be smart people. As intelligence increases, happiness often decreases. Also, dumb fucks will be your boss. BC their dad knew some guy way back when. Getting ahead is more about connections than work/smarts. He who increaseth knowledge increaseth sorrow. He who increaseth testicle size increaseth prostate cancer. They will tend to overanalyze and obsess over minor details that most others would not have thought about or cared. Think of how often you are frustrated by people dumber than you. They must be perpetually frustrated. No matter how smart you are, it doesn't matter if no one listens to you. The fact that growing up smart, or being told you're better or above average, leads to a burnout, anxiety, and depression. Smart people are good at identifying problems. Normally they are not able to solve them because of outside factors. Smart people live in a world where everything is broken and no one will allow them to fix it. This hits hard. The saddest truth about smart people is that they don't get to be turtles. Turtles are pretty neat. I like turtles. Heard this in the little kid video from a Tosh O episode. Happy Cake Day, close bracket. That a stupider person with a louder voice will get more attention. Done right. Your comment needs more likes than the odd comment because yours was louder. They spend most of their lives unable to escape from the realization that people can in fact be very shitty and probably don't mean what they say 9 times out of 10. Logical people think others are logical too, but they rarely are. And yes, maybe if you understood their true motivations then what they do is logical. But being smart does not mean you are a mind reader. That's the sad thing as well. We become accustomed to the idea that everyone is lying through their teeth. We even wrongly label those who are good people. By labeling them as bad people, they act negatively against us, so they seem like bad people, meaning we think they were actually bad people and we were right all along. I second guess my gut feelings because of that very feeling. Maybe I'm misjudging, but lately I have realized that my initial instincts are rarely wrong. I still can't read minds, but I can see when people's behaviors don't add up. Trying not to sound like an asshole, but I'm demonstrably above average in intelligence. I went to a top 10 school for engineering. I currently work as an engineer. I'm not the smartest in my class. I consider myself outstandingly average, if not slightly below in my graduating class. However, given the requirements to get in and graduate, I'm at least one standard deviation above the average intelligence when mapped to the IQ test. There are 3 things that I have noticed about being smart. 1. Being smart just means your intelligence is not your limiting factor in what you can do. There are many other limiting factors. Maturity, emotional intelligence, ability to deal with anxiety, willingness to take risk. Just because you are smart, any one of these factors can and will knock you down a peg. Being smart doesn't even mean that you will be good at your job. Being smart just means that you are easily retrainable into many roles. However, in the real world you will be faced with decisions that will weigh heavily on you. Your willingness to make those decisions becomes the limiting factor in your earnings and career growth. Just because you are smart doesn't mean you will make the right choices. It just means you can learn. Doesn't mean you'll be good at everything. That requires many other factors. It just means that if I gave you a manual and a car engine, you'll probably figure out how to get it to run again with enough time. 2. The realization that you are in fact smart is the most depressing realization ever. I'm currently surrounded by my professional colleagues. There is a bell curve within the demographic as is with every demographic. But we are talking about a group that has been shifted to the intelligence side for a very long time. I assume that is the average. When you talk to people where the demographic is not that, the way you communicate becomes much different. You see, with very intelligent people, you communicate with them by making a story. You find their hiccups, you ration your way through it, or you stare at that hiccup for an hour. Dumb people don't even realize they have a hiccup. They just get mad. You extrapolate that across the entire population, and your view on humanity dims a lot. The truth of the matter is that outside of hyper-focused roles, intelligence is not that important. 3. Ego is a human condition, and if you're smart, it's so much more dangerous. It is easy, when you are smart, to assume everyone around you is dumb. You explain the same logic problem 50 times over and nobody gets it. But every demographic has a bell curve and there are smart people everywhere. So when you try to have something done your way, you get ego checked by someone who you didn't expect was smart. And that shit can really bite you in the ass. To this day, the person who I fear the most is an intelligent sociopath. You're talking about someone who can learn everything, realize how to manipulate people, with none of the emotional attachments that make decisions hard. What a read. One thing I see pretty often is that dumb people tend to think they're smarter than they are. Smart people don't seem to realize how smart they are. Seriously, I know this girl. Smart as a whip, but legit just doesn't use it. If you watch her go about life, she honestly seems like a bit of a ditz. But as soon as she actually uses her brain, it's incredible. Being smart doesn't make you immune to bad ideas. Just better at defending them should you buy it. I've been told that I'm extremely smart. In reality, I'm a generalist. I know a small bit about a lot of things. I have had numerous different types of work experience starting at a very young age. It makes me seem like a know-it-all anytime I try to have any conversation. Lots of failed friendships, coworkers, and relationships. They don't reproduce as much as dumb people. They know too much about how the world works and how terrible everything really is. No ignorance is bliss for them. The lack of progress towards what could be is super fucking frustrating. And all the nonsense arguments against what could be make up a philosophical nightmare that we can never hope to escape. If you are new to TattleTale TV, please subscribe. We have new videos every day. Stay tuned for more coming up next.